election was the sharp red shift in these big cities. Because if you just talk to anybody who lives in them, they are furious. And this idea that like, oh no, the economy is actually good or crime is actually down, this is all just Fox News, like shut the up with that.
Congratulations, everyone. Libs have caught on to something that we figured out 2 years ago. Crime is a problem. And if you just tell people, voters specifically, that it's not a problem, and it was way worse in the 90s, so you shouldn't be complaining.
And this would obviously be a hard lesson for the left to learn. And make sure you guys stick around because there's something else here at play that I did not mention earlier this week that Ana actually called out and quite frankly gave a pretty good analysis on. But before we get started, before we start talking about crime, before we start talking about all the Poros-backed DAs, all the woke investigators, prosecutors, not investigators, that found themselves out of a job this election cycle because, believe it or not, the state of California did vote some of these people out and did also at the same time strike down some very, very woke initiatives. Like, for example, there's the one where shoplifters... let's just say that in the state of California, if you steal a certain amount of money, if you steal like right there at that little bit, like that very, very, right there on the mark, I think it's $950. If you shoplift that much, then they won't send you to jail. Provisions, stuff like that got voted down this election cycle in the state of California. However, I also want to tell you guys this way before we go any further, before we really dive into this. As many of you already know, it's the crime issue that's gotten Ana Kasparian to pivot back a little bit more towards common sense, at least on that issue, or the issue of crime, and also immigration. We've done a lot of videos on this. She even had this little bit where she went after the city of New York because arms and legs were being found in the subway, and I think I did a video on that earlier this year. I may even link it in the description box if I can pull it up for you guys. But speaking of the city of New York, there's actually going to be 2 videos coming out on the city of New York because there are 2 separate stories that I need to kind of touch back on. One of them involving a guy who's a serial stabber, and the other one involving Mr. Daniel Penny, because some new things have come out in that situation that, quite frankly, will make your head blow up. But before we get to that stuff tomorrow, we got to talk about this right here, and we got to talk about Ana Kasparian basically letting the left know that they have no voice going forward, especially when it comes to blue cities and crime. And by left, I'm talking about the radical progressive loons. Now, guys, I've talked about the progressive loons pretty much the entire week. I talked about the progressive loons pretty much all last week. And, of course, I think it's only fitting to start a video out on Thursday or talk about this video in the 12 o'clock hour on the progressive loons. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the progressive loons. We're going to talk about the woke DAs. We're going to talk about them getting their butts handed to them this election cycle and how it is that some people are at least beginning to wake up. Now, that does not mean that these people are going to be shifting to the right. It just means that these people have seen exactly what happens when you have the woke loons in charge. But before we fully dig into this, make sure you guys please go ahead and cut the notifications bell on for the channel. Make sure you guys also please go ahead and hit the like button for the algorithm. Make sure you guys also share the video. You guys can also find me on Facebook, and you guys can also find me on Twitter, also known as X. I'll try to link at least a pinned tweet in the description box for you guys and a post from Facebook as well. Make sure you guys also hit the like button on the post as well, so that way when the videos are posted to Facebook, it'll actually go up the algorithm up there as well. And let us go ahead and get this. So Ezra Klein has basically decided, and don't get me started, Ezra Klein, not exactly a fan, just simply saying that Ezra Klein, he's the person who's delivering the information to Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur, and not really delivering it to them per se, but delivering this to the left. It just so happens to be that Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are the ones who decide to touch this issue and talk about this episode of TYT, or this segment of TYT, which I will link the full segment in the description box for you guys. Real quick, Cenk is supposed to be meeting with Elon Musk or something like that. I found that out. I'm going to link to the article in the description box. It may be a video topic at a later date, just giving you guys a bit of a heads up. But getting back to Ezra Klein. So Ezra Klein basically was trying to explain to the left and those in their election post-mortem why it was that blue cities began to shift left. Here's a little bit of that now, also with some of Ana's commentary.
Experience for the Democratic Party. And he touched on how poorly blue cities have been run by progressive leaders. Got to keep it real. And so here's more of his argument. Here's more of his revelations, and then we'll break it down further.
The sense of disorder rising, right? Not just crime, but homeless encampments, trash on the streets, people jumping turnstiles in subways, crazy people on the streets. you just talk to people and they're mad about it. They feel it's different than it used to be. I mean, in San Francisco, like the fury is overwhelming. And you see that it's not just the presidential level. London Breed, the SF mayor, just lost re-election. In Oakland, they recalled the mayor. A bunch of the progressive DAs across the country were recalled or beaten in re-election campaigns. If Eric Adams has a lot of problems, but if he were obviously on the ballot, he would almost certainly, it seems to me, lose. You have to be able to govern well. People don't follow politics, but they live in the place they live.
Yeah, I follow politics, and I also live in the place I live. And I've been furious for several years now. And everyone...
Okay, got to cut her off for a quick second before she goes any further. But I want to go ahead and say this really quick. If you live in New York City, chances are you deal with the subway, okay? And I'm not trying to say that everybody in New York City votes Democrat, but obviously a lot of people in New York City do vote Democrat. A lot of people in New York City voted for Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg will be the subject of video number 2, and of course he'll also be the subject of the video that comes out on Friday when we talk about Mr. Penny and these new revelations that have obviously popped up here. But of course, Alvin Bragg is one of those woke DAs. He's not up for re-election right now. I think he's up for re-election a little bit later on this year. I think he's up for re-election at the exact same time that Mayor Eric Adams is up for re-election. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens there. But of course, you got LA, you've got San Francisco. They chose to get rid of the woke DAs. And of course, you also had, I want to say it was London Breed. She also lost her seat. She's the mayor of San Francisco. It just seems to me like maybe there was a bit of a backlash against progressives. And of course, there were also other progressive things, like, for example, the raising of the minimum wage, which California, I did do a video on that a while back. That one still passed, but barely, by a very, very small amount. So expect the price of a Big Mac to get much, much higher in LA. Expect the price of burgers at In-N-Out to get much, much higher, just simply saying. Makes me want to cancel any potential trips that I may take to California, because obviously an In-N-Out burger is probably going to be about $20 by the time I even get there. But still, though, the point is this right here. A lot of progressive bills, a lot of things, a lot of reforms, a lot of things that were put up to a vote from progressives were voted the hell down. A couple of them got through, like I just said, minimum wage, but the rest of them got voted the hell down. Why is this the case? Well, because people, quite frankly, are sick and tired of the progressive nonsense. It's almost as if to say progressives don't care about the people who actually live in the cities. Now, I already know somebody's probably going to say that you have a mantra, which is you get what the hell you vote for. Yes, I do. However, if a person is willing to at least change the behavior and at least change their vote, realize that maybe they screwed up, then I can at least understand that, because let's be honest, we've all done very, very dumb things at some point in time and made very, very dumb decisions. It's when you keep making the same dumbass decision over and over and over again that you deserve a discipline action, or a mental or verbal spanking, whatever the hell you might want to call it. Yes, my language is off tonight, but the fact of the matter is these people obviously live in these areas and they got to deal with this progressive bull crap, and they got the hell up and said, screw this mess, I don't want to deal with it anymore. I mean, look, the state of New York, they literally changed their law, lowered some of the standards, increased some of the standards for certain crimes, like, for example, and you'll see this in the video that I have tomorrow on the stabber, or the guy who's going around stabbing people in New York who finally got arrested. Yeah, they've changed the threshold in the law, so where now you've got to do a lot more to meet the requirements to go to jail. That right there being the criminal, meaning that the criminal can do a lot of things that he should have been arrested for previously. You know, certain escalatory steps. I'll try to link the stuff in the description box, that way you guys can get a better explanation. I mean, this is the same state that allowed gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin to get attacked on stage during an event, and the most that guy did was like a day in jail. That's how lax the standards are when it comes to the law and the law enforcement, because, of course, law enforcement has their hands tied. It was all part of the whole defund the police crap. Mostly progressives that wanted this type of crap, and obviously some of the people who live in these bigger cities who voted for it, they're obviously paying the price for it. But it gets deeper. Let's get back into this.
Everyone immediately, oh, Anna's just a secret right-winger. Anna's just a secret right-winger. No. I'm not a secret right-winger. I see the dysfunction, and I see working class Americans getting their catalytic converters stolen, okay, getting their homes broken into, getting assaulted on the subway or the train. And I'm supposed to just shut my mouth about it and tell everybody everything's fine because it's not the 90s? No, I'm not gonna wait until after the election to talk about how it's a problem. I'm gonna talk about it well before the election so, maybe Democrats, maybe progressives can recalibrate. But that's the thing about the left. They don't believe in recalibrating, okay? They think they know it all. They think they're the best. They think that anyone who crosses them or tweaks them or critiques them is the bad guy. And congratulations, in the state of California, Donald Trump flipped 10 blue counties into red counties. Let's take a look at the map. This is the electoral map. First one on the left-hand side, of course, is from 2020. And then, would you look at that? One of the most liberal parts of the country has become increasingly red. I wonder why that happened.
Okay. By the way, they're still counting votes in the state of California, and Trump is actually still gaining. Not like Trump's going to win California or anything. It's not like they screwed up his vote share. But of course, it just seems to me like they're stalling and they're trying to create this narrative that Trump did not win the popular vote when there's literally only enough votes out there to where Trump would still actually win the popular vote if all those votes went to Kamala Harris. Fact of the matter is, the left got their asses kicked. They got their asses kicked. Is what the hell happened to these people? They got the floor. They got the right, quite frankly, wiped the floor with these people. It wasn't just the right. It was also Democrat Party voters who actually decided to vote against this leftist nonsense, which is something that the Democratic Party is going to have to deal with going forward because the woke, loony, progressive base is not going to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, I think it may metastasize into something else going forward, especially given the fact that roughly 25% of their party is the woke, progressive, loony base. And like I said, it's going to be a problem for the Democrats going forward, which is going to get touched on in this video here. I mean, Anna does tell you towards the end of this segment that progressives have no leg to stand on going forward. If anything, they've been set back a good 10 to 20 years. I think I mentioned that in the previous video. It was the video about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. It was one of those videos that I had done. I think I quoted Count Dankula when he said that those who were cheering the assassination attempt, they were setting their ideology back a good 10 years. Just simply saying that there's another shoe to drop here in the future, and it could, in fact, metastasize into something else. But I'll be here to cover that when it happens. But let's hop back to this video.
And so, look, I think that our advantage is that we're not bullied by the media gaslighting industrial complex. And so there's two different factors here. So there's the extreme left, identitarian left, whatever we're calling them these days, right? So those guys say, no, crime is imaginary. It doesn't affect anyone. It's blah, blah, blah.
Okay, there's a lot of things there that Jink said that is just dishonest on his end. And I'll explain so a little bit more so on the other side. I'm halting it right now, stepping in right now because of time purposes, and I don't want to get a copyright claim. But let me let the rest of Jink's nonsense play out, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this because, and you'll see it in the full video, that when Jink does talk, he just sticks to the whole Dunner thing. And of course, he tries to tell us all that TYT did not get bullied into this nonsense that the woke progressive DAs were looking to push. But let's play this next segment.
Then you go talk to real people. Can you guys please, I mean, everybody overused the term touch grass, but like go talk to non-political people. So I go to a picnic or a barbecue or whatever it is, and as soon as I got non-political people, I immediately ask them what they're thinking. And in California and New York and San Francisco and Philly and Washington, the first thing that would come out of their mouth is, I hate the crime. The crime's out of control, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, etc. And and I asked them, what do you think about Biden? This is now 2 years ago, a year ago, etc. And they're like, obviously too old, what are they doing? It's crazy, right? So, but when we would tell both the identitarian left and the corporate Democrats, you guys are crazy. Biden's way too old and crime is real and people are really pissed about it. They're like, no, that doesn't suit our purposes. Since that's not in our ideology, we reject it out of hand. Well, if you keep rejecting facts, well, this is where you're gonna wind up.
100%.
Okay, it is your ideology. Let me explain why it's your ideology. Because in 2020, when defund the police started, you may have said initially that you did not want to go along with this. It was a bad idea, but God dang it, if like not even a week after it started, you were pounding the drum for it. I remember those segments where you guys were, I think it was like, what was it, Ben Mankiewicz and John, and that wasn't John Iadarola, it was Ben Mankiewicz, was showing the city of Minneapolis being completely and totally destroyed during the George Floyd riots, and you said it was only a few cars that got turned over, while the entire camera is going all the way across the city of Minneapolis, and it's burnt the hell out. There's also a bit in this 20-minute segment that he has where he says that TYT did not get bullied into it. Yes, the hell you did. Like I just said, defund the police came up, you said it was a bad idea, and then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 days later, you were very, very much in favor of it. Open borders, you said that you were not in favor of this, but then turned right back around, and guess what? You said you all of a sudden you were very, very much in favor of it. It is your ideology. And by the way, Jink, you radicalize a lot of the loons out there that are highly radical, very, very radical at this moment in time, and they're the ones who, let's just say that they're the loony types that continue to advocate for open, outright revolution and civil war. Congratulations, Jink. You're not going to be able to bring these people back to any form of sanity. But then again, though, as I have always said in previous videos, and of course I provide the proof and I provide the evidence and the studies for you guys, this ideology preys on those who are mentally ill. But let's get back to Ana.
Okay, just go to them and tell them everything's fine. Crime isn't as bad as it was in the 90s. That's not politics, okay? That's not trying to win. That's digging your heels in and insisting that you're right, even as there's widespread concern over these issues. Look, the main role of government is to protect its citizens. In these situations, in these blue cities, when the public doesn't feel that Democratic leadership is doing enough to protect working class people, okay? They're not going to favor the Democrats, and as they're being gaslit, they're just going to increasingly get angry. How do I know that? Because I've experienced it firsthand myself. And so ask Jink, I mean, over the last few years, month after month, the anger just continues to like compound. Because it's like, we are headed toward that iceberg. Are you guys going to adjust? Are you guys gonna turn the wheel, or are you just gonna go barreling toward that iceberg? And Democrats, with the help of progressives on this issue, were like, nah, we like the iceberg. We're gonna barrel for it.
Okay, now I want to go give you guys a heads up after listening to all that. You see that, you heard that there. Not a whole lot that I'm going to disagree with on that there, because I think that Ana's on the right track. Like I said, we can have a discussion about every little thing that she said, but she's not lying. The main role of the federal government, the main role of the government period, is to protect its citizens. State and local government needs to do the exact same thing. Cities need to do the exact same thing. All right, why the hell do you think police forces exist? Why do you think district attorneys exist? To lock people up who, quite frankly, need to be locked the hell up. But of course, Jink is going to come in here in a second. You'll see it in the 20-minute and the whole 22-minute segment he did. And he's going to say that this was all an elaborate plot by the Democratic Party to get rid of progressives. Now, I have said that the Democrats want to get rid of the progressives first before they do anybody on the conservative side. However, the problem is the Democratic Party is in a state where roughly a quarter to a third of their base, it kind of side more with the progressives more than anything else. It's going to hamper them going forward in elections. I talked about this the other day with the Never Trumpers. After a while, they're going to find themselves coming back to the Republican Party because the Democratic Party does not actually represent them. I don't think I said it that way in that video, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys kind of know what I meant when I said a lot of them are going to find their way coming back because they're going to be homeless and they're going to go back to where it is that they came from. Trump did something to these people. I can't really truly explain it. It's probably somewhat biblical, but that may be another video for another day. But Ana has, in fact, lived this nightmare. She got attacked by a couple of homeless guys outside of her apartment. She's also called out Kathy Hochul for the situation in New York. I brought up the limbs in the subways, the killers, all that type of crap there. She's been assaulted. She's been berated by her own side over this. So, yes, Ana Kasparian, I think, does at least have the ability or does have the right to speak on this issue. And she does have the right to point out the fallacies and the failures of the progressive loons. But this conversation does get deeper, so let's get back to it.
Progressives are powerless now, okay? They have no credibility. They are completely powerless. They refused to recalibrate. They continued promoting policies that made the lives of working class people far worse in liberal cities, okay? And now, no one's gonna listen to them when it comes to the bread and butter issues. Yeah. They have no power.
No, they don't. They don't have any power anymore. People in the cities are going to look at these progressives and they're going to say, we tried it your way, we did it your way, and it got us a loss in revenue, a loss in money, a loss in safety security. Some people's family members actually died because of this, because people would get arrested for assault, they'd get arrested for robbing a bank or whatever, and the woke DA would let this guy go or let this girl go, and next thing you know, somebody got killed later on. By the way, this is going to be coming up in video number 2 for Thursday, which of course is the situation in New York. Like I said, those two videos, the one with the the guy who's going around stabbing people in New York City, and of course the video and the new revelations on the Daniel Penny situation, the Marine who choked out Jordan Neely. Once you get to that there, the more and more has been uncovered about that, the more and more it will piss you off, the more and more it will burn you off. As a matter of fact, I wanted to make this right to a separate video, but Laken Riley's killer, he was finally sentenced today to life without parole. The Soros-funded prosecutor would not do the right thing and order the death penalty. But of course, here we are once again. Woke Soros investigators screwing things up and making people's lives a living hell. But let's get back to it.
I mean, it's just so ridiculous to me, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So when people tuned into our election coverage and they were like, well, why isn't Anna upset? I wasn't upset because I knew it was coming.
There's a second part of that that's so important, Anna. You're right. It ironically ruins the progressive brand, even though it was the establishment Democrats that actually passed it into law in California. We didn't do anything about it. And it ruins it when we have incredibly popular policies, including Medicare for all, that polls at 70%. All of the economically popular policies are progressive.
Cenk. Progressive policies are not popular. California, the most progressive state in the country, voted down a lot of these progressive policies. They almost voted down the increase in the minimum wage. Came very, very close. I gotta say it over and over again, if you raise the minimum wage, the price of everything else goes up in the process. Just because the price of inflation goes down the next couple of years because Trump gets our energy costs down does not mean that the price of food in California is suddenly gonna get lower, the price of a Big Mac is, or the price of an In-N-Out burger is. No, it's probably not going to because you still raise the minimum wage. People in California are gonna be like, why the hell is the price of everything hadn't gone down? Inflation's bad. Well, it's because when you raise the minimum wage, everything else goes up in price along with it. People are starting to see this, they're starting to learn this the hard way, and sometimes the hard way is the only way people learn. These progressive policies, they're not as popular as Cenk thinks. Nothing in this world is free, and every damn socialist policy, every damn progressive policy these people put out, their idea always costs a buttload of money. And in some cases, it costs some people their lives, as the people of California, people in the state of California, people in San Francisco, LA, and many other local cities, Fresno is another one, also Long Beach, San Diego, as they found out, this woke progressive DA BS and nonsense is actually unsafe, it's dangerous, it gets people killed. And not to mention the homeless problem that you got in that state is obviously making matters a lot worse than what it already is. But let's get back to Anna.
Or to Medicare for all. He did not hesitate when it came to that, but he also didn't hesitate when it came to shutting down 4 state prisons, releasing tens of thousands of inmates into the public with no plan for them whatsoever. No transitional plan, no real data indicating that anyone had been rehabilitated in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And we were just supposed to, no, this is great. I mean, the carceral state is a problem. And so we should just willy-nilly, without a plan in place, release tens of thousands of people into the most expensive state to live in during the coronavirus pandemic, when all the businesses were shut down and there were no jobs available for people. Congratulations.
Progressive policies, even economic policies, got rejected hard, not just in California, but New York. Certain measures were put up for a vote and they got rejected. I mean, like I said, the raise in the minimum wage in California it only barely won, dude. Come on.
I mean, look, 70% of voters in California approved Proposition 36, which is a reversal of an earlier ballot measure that everyone was lied to about, right? Like the whole idea was, hey, we're gonna stop putting people in prison for minor drug offenses or drug possession. In reality, what that proposition from 2014 did is it lessened all sorts of serious felonies into misdemeanors. And now no one in the state trusts the left on these issues. And so there was a ballot measure this time around regarding forcing inmates to do labor, right, against their will. And it had no opposition, right? Like it was.
I mean, they'll tell you that Newsom is a progressive, and they'll probably put Newsom out there as their nominee, telling you he's a progressive, but Gavin Newsom vetoed like reparations and stuff. I mean, they're gonna find out pretty quickly that this guy is nowhere near as progressive as he makes himself out to be. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if TYT does actually ask the Democrat and say no to him in 2028. But we still got a lot to cover at the very end, so let's go ahead and get back to it.
For you, even a few months ago, okay? Because it was very public and it was a big deal when everyone was dogpiling me as the big baddie for bringing up these issues. So you didn't have to come and support me 2 years ago. You didn't have to do it a year ago. And I'm gonna do my job and my analysis, and I wanna make it very clear to people watching the show. Do not expect me to be an activist for any side, because at this point, that's a losing strategy, especially with the Democrats who just refuse to take any advice, refuse to address, refuse to recalibrate. And honestly, when I look at which party has made my life worse, and it's because local politics has more of an impact on your day-to-day life, it's the Democrats. And they need to accept that and change. And if they don't, well, they're gonna keep losing support, even in cities like Los Angeles and even in states like California.
Correct. And by the way, that little bit that you saw at the end, Ana knows that this is coming again, and it's going to be right back on the stage in 2028. Now, I've already told you guys I'm leaving pure politics alone for a while now, at least for now, going into next year. But still, though, this woke progressive nonsense, it ain't going away. They're going to keep running it out there for the next 4 years. As a matter of fact, there's a specialty video out there that I just may be putting out tomorrow to go along with the one in New York, and it's about the situation involving Jaguar and how they just decided to just piss off everybody with their recent ad, the new Bud Light. This woke progressive stuff is not going away. But this last bit that Ana says right here, to me, is what tells me that she really and truly has left the left. By the way, if I haven't already said it before, the progressives no longer trusted on these issues. So whatever happens in 2028, it's probably going to be a bloodbath. It's the truth. She's done with the Democratic Party. She's finished. It's done nothing but cause her pain. It's done nothing but cause a lot of other people in these cities pain. Now, this right here is the reason why it is that I'm saying this and letting you guys know about the progressives one more time, why it is that they have no more power. Like I said, people have already seen what progressives, what law enforcement under progressives, what life is like under progressives. They've already seen this. They did not like it. It will have a trickle-down effect in 2026. As a matter of fact, I actually believe that Republicans in the state of California do pretty daggone good in that midterm cycle. They probably pick up a few congressional seats, and they may even put a dent in the state's Congress and state Senate. Oh yeah, it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be very, very tough for someone like Gavin Newsom, the darling of the left, to justify all the losses going into the 2028 presidential election. Which brings me to my last point. And I know some of you guys are not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I've ran into people who I know that are conservatives. And by the way, a good portion of the Democrat Party voters this cycle that did vote for Harris, they voted for Harris mostly out of spite because they did not like Trump. You're probably going to see about 4 or 5 million of those voters come back to the right. Obviously, me, a Trump voter, I know why some of these people did not want to vote for him, because Trump absolutely triggered them. Give it a couple of years, you'll begin to see some of the crap that's going on in their brains and whatnot will begin to go away. You'll start to see it, it'll start to dissipate, and you guys will see exactly what I'm saying. Some of these people will, in fact, come home. We're not going to want them to come home. We're probably not going to want to accept them at first, but after a few conversations, after a while, you'll kind of get some idea there. But of course, they're going to have to put down the gun, they're going to have to put down the axe, put down their tomahawk, because they typically tend to be filled with rage. Trump derangement syndrome, by the way, was nowhere near strong going into 2024. It will find a way to not be anywhere near strong going into 2028. And of course, the progressives, 25% of that actual base of support that votes for these people, well, they're not going to be trusted anymore going forward. It's going to be very, very interesting. But you guys tell what you think in the comments section. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.